Episode 157 of Australia's #1 marketing show. Listen in if you're ready to be inspired. I mean, really inspired.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you so much more importantly are a very motivated small business owner just wanting to grow their business through some really smart marketing. I reckon that's fair, and we are made possible, brought to you in fact by the very good folk at Net Registry, who are basically there to get your online marketing sorted. Like, I mean really sorted. You know, domain names, website design and hosting, SEO, pay per click, all that stuff that you might not know how to do but want to do, and they're just masters at it. They nail it. So head over to netregistry.com.au and tell them Timbo sent you. Now, here we go. Oh, and by the way, welcome to everyone at the Flying Solo community. Now, today, question from a listener all about how to nail cold calling. Got a couple of tips for them on that one. I've got some feedback from a listener in Manchester and possibly Russia. I'm not sure, but some really nice feedback there. Bit of an update on some topics that are being discussed in the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. And then, save the best till last, why don't you, Timbo? I've got this guy called David Warne. And David is, I'm labeling him Mr. Inspirational. Just an amazing interview. He owns 5 ships, tall ships, that sail around Sydney Harbour. He owns another one up on the Whitsundays, and it's a rags to riches story. I mean, it's so inspirational. I've just finished doing the interview, and a very personal, honest and insightful account of how he built his business he's about to share. So look out for that. As usual, the show has marketing gold dripping from the ceiling. So I suggest whack a hard hat on. Okay, got your hard hat on? Because we are going to launch into a very good listener question. I like this one. It is from Adam Johnston. Adam is from igeniusgroup.com, and he sent me this message through the voicemail system. And you can do the same, by the way. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Click on the voicemail tab on the right-hand side there. Send me a message. Anyway, have a listen to what Adam's got to ask about cold calling.
Timbo, how you going here? It's Adam Johnston. Mate, I've got a quick question for you. I'm trying to interview basically some dentists, and what I'm looking at doing is finding out what their pain points are, and then trying to find out if there's a particular software product or something that I can build that's going to cover those pain points. And I'm really having some difficulty in doing those cold calls. I'm getting knocked back a lot by receptionists and different people, and really, I just want to go out there and just give them as much value as I can, and I'm finding it very, very difficult to get through that barrier to get to the business owner or the lead dentist or whoever it be. I mean, it might not just be that; it might be real estate. It doesn't really matter what the industry is, but have you got some tips for cold calling, and also how to get through that barrier? Is this the best method, or is it better to maybe do email or something else just to get through to the right people so I can give them the value that I know that I have behind the scenes? So, Timbo, absolutely love your show. You're a gentleman on the mic and an absolute connoisseur of marketing, I have to say. But if you could help me out, that would be greatly appreciated, mate. And look forward to listening to your show in future. Take care, buddy. Bye.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you, Adam, for the question and the dreaded cold calling. Some of us can get the sweats, the cold sweats, just even mentioning those two words. My view on cold calling, you know what? I will give Adam 7 ideas as to how to kind of work through that issue, but I also think I should get a cold calling expert on the show. So I'll look into that and who that may be, and stay tuned for the coming weeks and months as I find that person and interrogate them on the show. Righto, Adam, here's what I do, mate. First of all, you may well remember of a recent episode with Brad Smith from Brap Motorbikes. He talked about how he and his team made cold calling really fun. In fact, he has one team member that wears a mullet wig and Ray-Bans and makes fun of it, makes a game of it. So they're kind of just feeling a bit relaxed when they're making those cold calls. So that's a bit of a fun one. Number 2 for you, Adam. Start with your own dentist and ask for a referral from there. So you obviously interview your own dentist and ask them the questions, then move on to saying, okay, well, what other dentists do you know? In fact, can you just give me a name of one other dentist that I can call? And then you're kind of ringing with a warm kind of approach. So you can say to the Doberman at the other end, you know what I mean by Doberman, don't you? At the other end, hey, listen, such and such suggested I give them a call, your boss a call, and it's a bit more of a warm intro that way. Number 3, request intros via social media. Just say you're looking for, I suppose, just as I say this, I know you're kind of not looking for intros to dentists. You're looking to get through the Dobermans, basically. But that said, if you do get an intro through social media, you can then ask whether you can use that person's name who provided you with the intro. So again, it's not a cold call, it's a warm call because you're approaching them by way of an introduction. So when the dentist hears that, Jane Smith suggested I give you a call, then they're going to be more open to calling you back. Adam, I'd get out onto LinkedIn, mate. Have a look at LinkedIn groups containing dentists, and maybe even going as far as creating a survey monkey that you can whack on one of those groups. And if obviously you need to get permission from the group owner to join, but if you do get through that hoop, then you can create a survey monkey, put a link to that on the group's page and see what you get from there. Another tip would be to send a video to each of these dentists. Very easy to create, particularly if you've got a MacBook. You can look down the barrel of the camera, use QuickTime or ScreenFlow. You can even do it directly into YouTube and create a privately listed video that you send to each of these dentists. And that way, they're getting a sense of who you are, realising that you are a real person, a human being. They may be more inclined. Be sure to have at the end of that video a call to action, a phone number, your email address. Make it easy for them to contact you. Number 6, I think we're up to number 5. Why not create a website called yourbiggestproblem.com.au, which right now, as I say that, is available, yourbiggestproblem.com.au. And what you could do is that could be kind of your home base for going out, whether it be to dentists or real estate agents or car salespeople, insurance salespeople, and getting them to identify what their biggest problem in business is. That might just be a nice way of packaging it up and making it real. So that's something. And then you can send that website to the Doberman going, we're for real, and there's a video there of me explaining what I'm doing, and it personalises it more. And finally, number 7, the bottom line is me telling you this. I am someone who hates selling. Love marketing, but I hate selling. So to that end, I create content. And you might have heard me say before, and I certainly say this in my keynote talks that I give, is that, by creating content, people start to approach you. And they say, the amount of emails I get saying, hey, Timbo, and I listen to your show, and I know about this about you and that about you. Sometimes it freaks me out, but, but they're approaching me and I'm no longer having to cold call. And that's the power of creating great content. So I encourage you to do that. Now, Adam, mate, thanks for the question. And I hope there's some ideas there, and I am going to go out and find a great sales expert who can talk to us about amping up our cold calling skills. Okay, so thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on what is going on in the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, and let me tell you, there is plenty. Now, I have had a little bit of feedback from listeners who have been kind of tossing around whether to join or not, and I know one of the stumbling blocks is that a few have said, I'm scared it'll take up a lot of time. And I just wanted to reassure you, anyone who is thinking of joining the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, that it won't. All you have to do is go in there once a day, once a week. It's really up to you. Post a marketing question that's troubling you, that's on your mind, and let me answer it, and then let other forum members answer it. You may also like to read about what other forum members are asking and the answers they're getting, and that's really it. That is at its very minimum. Going in there once a week, posting a question and getting it answered, that's a pretty cool thing. And that's why the forum's there, to help you grow your business. I love contributing my thoughts to your marketing problems, and so do the other motivated members inside the forum. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and click on the forum button, and you will be in there before you say, wow, that forum's amazing, Timbo. But that said, I do want to let you know what is being discussed in there right now. We have got some things. We've got Meppy Man, he's one of our original members. He's just come back from Europe and Asia and is sharing some marketing insights. Craig is asking for a bit of help naming his new business. We have got a fantastic video that one of our members has just posted, a new email welcome video from a guy who owns a music school in Las Vegas. We have got some email marketing questions. We have got all sorts of stuff going on. Someone's wanting help with their editorial mission. I'm talking about how to handle rude customers. Spoke about that last week. So plenty going on inside the forum. It's $49 a month. I know, expensive, isn't it? And you will get more marketing value than you ever dreamt of. See you inside. Ahoy there, me matey. Yep, it's pirate time. We don't really have a pirate time, but our special guest today is David Warne, who owns sydneytallships.com.au. And boy, oh boy, is this a story of inspiration. Get ready to be moved, team. So here's the thing. I get a phone call about 6 weeks ago from this guy, David. He says, you don't know me, but I found you online and I want to talk to you about running some very interesting workshops on his tall ships. He explained that he owns 5 tall ships on Sydney Harbour. He's got one up on the Whitsundays and he wants to make best use of them. And an idea he's got is to run team building stuff, marketing innovation workshops, killer innovation workshops, that type of thing. You know, those things that I've spoken about previously on his tall ships. So we get talking and I said, well, you're not going to believe it, but I'm going to be in Sydney in a couple of days' time. So he said, why don't we meet for dinner? Which we did. Got to know each other. He puts this kind of business idea to me. I'm liking him and I'm liking the sound of his idea. So we kept talking, and just a really good guy, highly motivated, great spirit. And then he sent me an email a couple of weeks ago saying, hey, why don't you join us for a few days on a tall ship on Sydney Harbour? And I've just come back from that adventure with my family only yesterday. An amazing event happened up in Sydney, 150-year anniversary of the Navy. And David kindly invited myself and my family to spend 3 days living on a tall ship and experiencing the best of what Sydney has to offer. Let me tell you, it was amazing. So look, here's the thing. David doesn't see problems. He sees solutions. He's built an amazing business with Sydney Tall Ships, but it ain't all been chocolates. Let me tell you, there's been a lot of boiled lollies in between, and his story's going to really move you. Honestly, it moved me during the interview, and he's just got a wonderful attitude. So enough from me. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Inspirational. David Warne from Sydney Tall Ships, welcome to Small Business Big Marketing.
Hi, good afternoon, Tim.
Mate, let's start off. What were you doing prior to buying your first tall ship?
I've had a number of different businesses and learnt many lessons along the way. So I started off with a butcher shop and a chain of butcher shops and my own meat brands, including everything from growing cattle to feedlots, boning rooms, my own butcher shops and wholesale meats.
Of course you have.
And then from the meats, I love the meats. I love eating meats. I've always done things that I truly love.
Yep. Hello to all your vegetarians out there.
Oh, yeah, I'm not too keen on vegetarians. And then went into a spit roast company and built up fairly, massive spit roast company in Sydney.
And that was up until about 6 years ago?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. How did you get, we don't need to go into great detail about the spit roast company, but how did you get it to be massive?
Well, when I bought the business, I had my grandmother and grandfather in this fella's lounge room. I'll never forget it. $30,000 for a business that had himself and his wife doing a spit roast every weekend or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the fact that if we can do 1 or 2 spit roasts, we can do 100 spit roasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from there, once I was able to build a system and know that I could grow it out, in those days I took a huge gamble with a full-page ad in the Yellow Pages.
Oh, yeah.
Which cost $80,000, which was $20,000 more than the entire revenue of the year. And we took it I set myself a goal. I said I'm going to get this to $1 million in 3 years, and ended up getting, well and true, well past that.
Wow. God, you don't know the history of this show, but every now and then we have a very big laugh at the Yellow Pages, but that's in its current form. How long ago did you take that ad out?
10 years.
Yeah,
12 years ago.
Yeah,
so,
a brand in its heyday.
Look, I have to be. I not only take an ad. It was the beginning of thinking differently to what my competition were doing. So I spent quite a long time and paid what seems like ridiculous amounts of money at the time, understanding what would make an ad work and what makes an ad waste of my time and money, right? Mm-hmm. So I've never, there were thousands of words, hundreds of words on this full-page ad, right, with terrific headline, the most tender, the most juicy spit roast you've ever tasted in your life, or it's free, guaranteed,
Yeah.
I was very close to that anyway. Yeah. And that $80,000 ad, just the phones went off the hook, and one thing led to the other then. Yeah.
Wow, what a great story. So you touched on the fact that you figured that if you could do one spit roast really well, you could do 100, and it was all about systems. I haven't had that systems discussion on the show before. Is creating a business like that about replicating time and time again?
Yeah, it's just the way I view the world, and please, it's just I see the world made up of entrepreneurs, managers, and artists. And we're all a bit of a mixture of those, and some more than others. I'm obviously almost entirely entrepreneurial and very small amounts of artist and manager in me. Mm-hmm. So and artists, of course, they want everything to be new and different and perfect colours and perfect shapes and look beautiful or something all the time, right? And I to get the result that I'm looking for, I need to know what I'm doing, and then just do the same thing over and over again if I want to get the same results. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Yeah, no, it's the franchise model, isn't it?
Yeah, my ships, as you know, on the ships on the harbour now, we do 2,000 trips up and down that harbour a year doing exactly the same thing. And if I had more ships, Tim, there's plenty of customers out there.
Well, it's interesting you talk about systems because, as I mentioned at the start before you came on, I've just spent a weekend on one of your ships, and I kind of maybe even subconsciously observed the systems. We'd pull into port at the end of a day and it did the same things that they did the day before, and it was just go, 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 and everything got done, and everyone knew what they had to do, and yeah, I can see those systems. I can see those systems playing out in your current business.
Very important. I just, I like the idea of replication.
So David, okay, mate, you created a spit roast business that serviced Sydney. It obviously made you enough coin to then go and buy a tall ship, which, who doesn't want to buy a tall ship?
Before we go there, though, just before the spit roast, look, there's more to just doing spit roast, and there are probably 1,000 companies in Australia doing spit roast, right? Yep. Or more. I don't know. I mean, there are a dime a dozen. But I was able to I built a system of being able to do a spit roast on a buffet table inside a room. So, in other words, either inside a marquee or inside someone's rumpus room or inside a convention centre. So I was able to bring the spectacle of a spit roast inside to where people were eating and having their celebrations, rather than having a spit roast at the back of their garden underneath the trees.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the issue up until then, I'm guessing it wasn't smoke, because it would have been gas, yeah?
Yeah, no, on gas. So we actually did the show. We cooked the thing. We cooked most of it outside, and then used a series of lights and gimmicks to look as if the roast. We were talking about whole butts of beef between 20 and 40 kilos.
Yeah, right.
On a buffet table, being carved up by a chef.
So you turned it into a real experience, into theatre.
It's the foundation of my thinking, which you probably gathered by now.
Yeah.
It's all about the customer's experience. My whole life evolves around trying to deliver an experience for my customers that exceeds their expectations.
Oh, mate, we're going to have to. Tall ships can wait. You got to tell me more. You got to tell me more about that, because I had Brad Smith from a motorcycle retail brand called Brap, and Brad talked about the importance of the retail experience. You know, retail's under the pump these days with people buying online, and he has this amazing experience where you go to buy a motorbike and you end up on a dirt track with him or one of his staff, and it's the whole shooting match, and you buy in at this emotional level, even though you can probably get the motorbike, cheaper elsewhere. So what's your view? How do you approach creating a experience?
Can I just, Tony Robbins is a huge fan of mine, right? I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins, right? It's been a big weekend.
Quite the show.
12 o'clock. We've been there for 3 days in Fiji. It was midnight and maybe even later. He had organised brand new wetsuits, brand new big life ring things that we all clambered onto.
Hang on, you're just for listeners who don't know, David has done a lot of work with Anthony Robbins, and at this point, this story, I'm guessing you're on his island in Fiji with Anthony Robbins, and he's organising. What do you got? Wetsuits and.
Yeah. So this is at midnight. We haven't even had dinner.
Yeah.
Okay. And all of a sudden, coaches turn up. He unravels a new room that we hadn't seen before with all this, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I don't know where it's come from, brand new. And he's got us in the middle of the ocean, off his island, in the middle of the night, just swimming together and going down and actually flowing into a river together.
Yeah.
One of the craziest, wildest experiences of my life, totally and utterly unexpected.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things that I learnt from Tony, just out of the ordinary. Doesn't have to be within our limitations of thinking. Get out of there. And that's what I try to put into my experiences, which I think you've witnessed.
Well, I think you and I have coined the phrase, which after my first experience of meeting you, what was my text message? What the fuck just happened? I think was with the actual words.
You were shaking, Timbo.
So how does the average small business owner listening to this go? Yeah, well, that's great. Dave's with Tony Robbins floating down a river. How do I create an experience for my customers?
Look, so, okay, we're going to be I just don't mean to be rude or anything else here.
Go for it, mate.
But it's totally and utterly your thinking and what you're thinking your limitations are. I just, on the spit roast side, 10,000 people run spit roast businesses. I was able to introduce not only my spit roast experience, but I introduced marquees for people in their backyards. And then I would always do lighting up into the top of those marquees with special LED lights and different lighting systems. It was very simple, but I was totally and utterly over and above their expectations for, their 21st or 50th or 60th or whatever it happened to be, right? Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be unexpected. And I'm going to add into it a little remarkable, a little bit, extraordinary.
Oh, mate, two great words there, unexpected and remarkable. And I think that's really reassuring to think it's not about big budgets. A lot of this smart marketing isn't about having the biggest wallet. It's about thinking cleverly. It is about being creative and having an idea, having the courage to have an idea and actually implement that idea?
Look, and I couldn't agree more, Tim. Imagination and limitations are just purely your own boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's all mindset stuff, isn't it? This is every time we talk about smart marketing, it generally ends up at some emotional level versus the kind of rational do this, do that type thing.
Yeah, I just encourage your listeners to stretch those imaginations, to stretch those boundaries, because every single time I do, I realise new opportunities, new life becomes a little bit more exciting as well.
All right, mate. Well, in walks the tall ships, because it's not every day you buy a tall ship. You're the first person I've ever met that owns not one but 6. Let's understand. 6 years ago, you started Sydney Tall Ships. How did that begin?
I was sitting on the boat when the QE2 came in. It had been sitting at Campbell's Cove for 20 years, since the bicentenary reenactment in Sydney Harbour. 350 tonne of Danish oak, but rotten, full of worm, diesel pumps pumping out thousands and thousands of litres an hour, keeping it afloat. And my grandmother turned to me and said, "Geez, Dave, you'd be good at this." I said, "Grandma, I wouldn't have a clue. I'm not a sailor." And she said, "No, I know you're not a sailor, but you're a good people person. You should do this." So that set it in motion.
What a granny!
I want to say to you guys, Timbo, no one on this entire world would have dared take on this challenge. Honestly, your boats, 15-foot tinnies cost a fortune to maintain, right?
Mate, tell me about it. I was lucky enough to inherit a wooden boat about 4 years ago, and it was well and truly a liability. Those things are not easy to upkeep. The one I'm talking about was a 32-foot wooden boat made of hew and pine, small compared to what you've got. So massive challenge. Granny's given you the thumbs up. You respect what Granny has to say. You're obviously coming to the end of what you were doing with the spit roasts and looking for a new challenge.
You're looking for a new, bigger, bolder. Yeah, you're right. I needed something that I needed to enjoy again.
You'd lost the joy?
I lost the joy. It all become, I just needed something new again, Bright, as an entrepreneur and a salesperson, bright, shiny things. I often, that's one of my great challenges, is not to, I look around every single day, an opportunity comes across my eyes that would be a wonderful opportunity to take on.
Yep.
So that's one of my little things I've got to be careful of.
Oh, big time. So, Dave, every single 99.9 people out of 100 who are running a spit roast business and then their granny taps them on the shoulder and says you should buy a tall ship would have said, well, that's silly. I love your granny to death, but come on. I mean, you're getting old.
So you've got a rotten ship, Tim.
Yeah.
You've got no customers whatsoever. Yeah. Hasn't had it,
You don't sail. You're no sailor.
Oh, if you looked at, I'm looking at my hands. They're as soft, and my hands are still as soft as they've ever been, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, it's a really interesting time of my life, because I had only just come back from Business Mastery with Tony Robbins.
Yep.
And my mind was I was ready for bigger and bolder things.
You were wide open.
Exactly.
And you're one of these guys who knows the universe delivers. A bit of woo-woo here, listeners, but stick with us. So,
does woo-woo bother your listeners, does it?
Mate, I don't know. They'll tell me. I love it. But I always err on the side of apologetic.
No, that's all right. Well, that's fine.
You've gone, okay, well, universe does deliver, need to be open to the signs. How did you know that? Because, there would have been other opportunities coming your way. How did you know that was the one?
The uniqueness of it, Tim. The fact that it was so difficult for anyone anywhere in the world to open up next door to this. If I could make this work, so I'm going to rephrase that. When I made this work, when I was able to make this work, I'll stand alone. This could be I had a vision of this, an iconic experience, something that extraordinarily outside the imagination.
Pretty amazing too to think at a rational marketing level. There was a gap, like Sydney Harbour. That's where Captain Cook sails in, and yet up until 6 years ago, there was no business sailing tall ships around Sydney Harbour.
Well, there was a ship a few years before that. There was a ship called the Bounty, an Australian ship. It operated for a few years when sold off to Hong Kong. So I've taken over a tall ship, no customers, it's sinking.
Yeah.
And a few years before that, there's a ship called the Bounty that went broke, operating on the same wharf that I did.
Great confirmation that you're onto something special.
Oh, very. Yeah, that gave me a lot of confidence, that did.
I want to understand how you brought it to life, David, but I want listeners to understand exactly what you've brought to life. So just scooting straight ahead to now, you've got 6 ships, 5 on Sydney Harbour. Correct me if I'm wrong, 1 up on the Whitsundays. Yep. Just wrap some numbers around it.
So about 4 weeks ago, we celebrated our 250,000th customer. Last year we had about 83,000 customers on board. We have around about 40 or 50 people living on the ships at any one time. I have a marketing team and sales team, and we've just had the Tall Ship Festival in Sydney, which is an extraordinary thing in itself. Our little business, grew from zero. And this year, last financial year, we almost got to the $10 million revenue mark. So this year we'll boom that. So
6 years. 6 years. All right, mate. Well, this is I don't know how you're going to answer this in any abbreviated way, but
I want to add one more thing to that.
Yeah, go on.
Because only small business operators out there love your work, tough gig, cash flow, right? Not one of my ships I've been able to borrow against. So not one single ship has anyone ever been able to lend me money to buy.
Banks don't want to know about tall ships.
No, they would. They run a mile. Even venture capitalists run a mile. You know what I mean? So we've only been able to grow the business through cash flow of the business, which is an interesting thing. It's just one of the great challenges we all face, right? Yeah.
So many questions, David. So many questions. We'll turn this into a book. What did you do in year one in order to kind of, excuse the pun, anchor the idea so that it was there for the long term?
I think it's not quite fair to say the first year because we lost so much money. It was so wild. It was so hopelessly ridiculous that at the end of the first year, my wife, we just had a little girl, and her mum and dad, everyone was pleading with me to now would be the time to walk away from it. Good idea, Dave, but walk away. So I wouldn't say the first year was particularly memorable.
Yeah, okay. Well, it was for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, all the wrong reasons. I'll never forget my first $10,000 ad in the Sunday Telegraph, I think it was, or Weekend Telegraph. Generated $342 worth of sales in 3 weeks. So, and I was doing 4-hour cruises, $149, I think, or $139. And no one wanted it. I literally had 2 or 3 customers. I had ships and times and schedules and booking systems and a website. No one wanted it, Tim. Literally, I couldn't sell it. Ads didn't sell it. I was walking around Darling Harbour and Circular Quay dressed as a pirate, right? Dressed as a bloody pirate with brochures, trying to build up, people. Like people love this. People get right into this. No, not one. So that was really challenging.
Well, okay. So you must have had a bit of coin in the bank coming out of the spit roast business. You've bankrolled the first 12 months. how do you keep, you've come off the back of a Tony Robbins experience, you're feeling pretty strong of mind, but how do you maintain such strength when, I'm guessing, well, you got a new child, you got in-laws, parents, maybe even your wife have just gone, Dave, you've lost the plot. How do you keep going? What do you say to yourself?
I want to just add on to that little conversation. Everyone apart from my grandmother, okay?
Bless her.
Everyone, yeah. Look, This is more of that stuff that you're a bit worried your customers don't like.
No, don't be like that.
Your listeners don't like, but this is the honest truth. I just totally and utterly knew there was a way. I just hadn't found it yet. I just knew that I just had to keep going one way or another. There was always a bloody way. Like I just had to. It was such a wonderful thing that we were doing, but no one knew about it, and I just had to keep making changes until I came up with the formula that clicked. So somewhere along that line, I ended up with a $10,000 ad that generated $50,000 or $60,000 worth of sales, and then refined it, and we went from 4-hour cruises to 2-hour cruises twice a day, and then 3 times. Now we're operating 3 ships every day, 5 times a day, from 9:45 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. So honestly, it's just pure and utterly never the fuck giving up. And stupid, I know, and that's one thing that I got through. So
there was a tipping point. I want to understand that tipping point or turning point where you've gone, oh, hang on, it's starting to work. But what can you tell us about the darkest moment in that time before the tipping point?
Yeah, so we got through I can remember it so well because I'm going to be open now. I've talked about the positive side of things. After that first summer in the middle of winter, and no one in the entire world wants to go on a boat in the middle of Sydney Harbour in the middle of winter, right? And particularly a sinking, cold, wet one. That winter, my family, Alison and I, we weren't doing too well. We had I'm not exaggerating here. In the middle of that winter, she had a school reunion, and we had to turn up late. I got her to that school reunion late, because we could only gather $17 behind the seat of a car and under the bed or whatever, so she didn't have to buy dinner at that school reunion. And like a little one and all the expenses, and I was 3 or 4 months behind in my rent. And Alison's mum and dad, obviously, I was the worst son-in-law that you could ever imagine, throwing away and wasting that enormous amount of your lifetime's work. 10 years or 11 years of building up my previous businesses almost gone, righto? I had the ship up on refit, up on dry dock at Garden Island, when they had $57,000 bill just to put the thing back in the water. That was just the crane bill to get it back in the water, and they wouldn't put it in the water until I gathered $57,000, and they're not going to accept my check. So, that at that moment, that was my darkest moment. That's my darkest moment.
Wow. I don't know. That's full on, mate.
No, it was a horrible, horrible place. And I totally feel for other people, and there would be other people out in the world out there in those circumstances.
Where'd you find the 58 grand?
57 grand. I put on a tie and I walked up for some lawyer companies. Alison was working, still working, thank goodness, for a company called EY. And I walked in there, and they introduced me to a few of their clients. And I was able to sell them corporate Christmas parties and asked to have their money paid up front if I gave them some extras. And over a couple of weeks, I pulled it together and got it back down in the water again. That's just one hurdle, right? So I sold them the vision of keeping the tool ship dream alive on Sydney Harbour. I need your help, but I don't want handouts. I haven't received $1 single from any government source whatsoever. And
to this day.
God,
I would have thought that'd be a lucrative source of funding for a business like this.
Not $1.
what was the turning point then? You got the ship back in the water. That doesn't mean it just means the business was continuing, not that it was booming.
We're still in the middle of winter, Tim.
Yeah.
So
where was that point where you've turned to Allison and gone, I think things are turning. I think they're now going to get better.
Well, we realised, there's no other toolship business that I've been able to find across the world that isn't either run by the government and fully subsidised or broke, okay? So, or a charity sort of thing. I was able to add value into what we do. I had to like double, quadruple my pricing for corporates, and I turned it from a cheap charity type of mindset into a classy, professional, highly valuable experience. And so my corporate world got in. I was able to sell my team building events and corporate Christmas parties, and that really took off really well. That gave me cash flow up front. And instead of asking a $500 deposit, I asked for a $3,000 deposit, and so $3,000 gave me the cash flow up front to keep going until the summer.
Yeah, right. So it was diversification that saved you.
Well said, exactly.
Yeah. So you've gone sailing tourists up and down the harbour all day, but at night.
No. Everyone believes you're a marketing guy, and the first thing you've said is tourists for the tall ships.
Yeah.
And so everyone, strong. Everyone said the same thing to me. Oh, this is going to be fantastic for the tourists, except the Australian dollar at $1.10, and then tourists dropping out, and all our local families going overseas instead of staying in Australia didn't help, right? So I actually said, forget the tourists. They're a fickle bunch anyway, and they've got 10,000 people vying for their dollar. I actually made a decision that we would focus almost 100% of our efforts onto local mums and dads and families. And they're a market that I knew as a mum, as a dad myself. Mum wanted, I'll never forget, when I really asked what mums wanted, they didn't want a tall ship. They didn't particularly want to be out in the harbour. She wanted champagne with her mates, righto? She wanted time away from the kids and a little bit of freedom. And I personally wanted activities, adventure, challenge, and so did my mates. And so I built that into my product and gave them what they wanted. And then develop, and you'll see my copy today, it's still almost entirely about mums and dads, my local mums and dads.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great. Understand your audience and then diversify.
Go and ask them what they want, go and get it, give it to them.
Yeah, love it, mate. Listeners, I am talking to David Warne. David is the founder and owner of sydneytallships.com.au. At least go to the website. If you're in Australia or coming to Australia, hop on one because it's an unbelievable experience. I've just stayed on one for 3 days with my family. Dave, let's talk about money. What's your view on it? Because there's a whole lot of small businesses who can't, that whole cash flow thing, that's scary. I mean, they live hand to mouth. What's your mindset in regards to money when you haven't got any?
Well, I'm never interesting. It's a great question. I don't pimp any of my assets. In other words, I drive an old, I buy my cars from I've had many parts of my life where I've only had $2 or $3 fuel to put in my car, right? So I to get to work. And when I first met my wife, in those very early days, she put $50 in my back pocket once because I didn't have anything in my life whatsoever. I had ideas and dreams, but nothing. So I still value every single dollar, probably more than most. But money there is purely and utterly to make the world go round, right? I love living it up when I can. We hired a castle when I was in Europe, cost a fortune. But but it was a one-off. And look, what do I say about money?
Well, can I just say, you have a think about what you're going to say about money, but I want to thank you on air because, that whole mindset that you just explained. I remember you emailing me 3 weeks ago and you said, Timbo, I'd love you to come up and I can't remember what it said, but basically come up and experience what's going to be an amazing event on Sydney Harbour in 3 weeks' time. And I'd like you to bring the family as your guest. And I responded. I think I called you and said, wow, David, thank you. And I don't think I can do it. Can you remember my reason? It was about, I think it was just going to be incredibly.
One, you've got a big family, Tim.
I've got a big family. Well, there's 5 of us, but
the airfares,
airfares and accommodation, and you just said, you basically said, look beyond that. And we'd only just met, and I really appreciated that. It's like, look beyond it, mate. This is it's a once in a lifetime. It was the only live once. It was the only live once chat that we had.
Yes.
Yeah, and I did, and I look at it. It just come back off the back of that, and it was amazing. So, yeah. So money, mate. You got anything? You don't have to.
Okay, I have I think money. I think it needs to be discussed. I now have a business partner, Marty Woods. Did you meet Marty?
I did. He was captain.
Yep. Marty and I are completely different ends of the scale in regards to money. I'll spend money within the business. I'll spend money on advertising that I know I'm going to get a return on investment for, right? Mm-hmm. I'll spend money on people and marketing and experience sort of delivery. Whereas Marty, as a shipwright, he's an amazing, truly remarkable man, except everything is spent as little as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And that has its limitations. I do believe in thinking big and making and build it and they will come one way or another.
Yep.
So you have to, if you can't, you got to have, to run these tall ships, I've got to have thousands of customers on board my ships paying good money. So it's just an interesting way that people look at money, because I personally wouldn't argue with anyone investing as much as they possibly can into the marketing and sales aspects of their businesses.
It raises the question, and there's a lot of business owners out there would answer this question, why do you do what you do? Because they're there to make the biggest profit so they can, have lots of money. Why do you do what you do, Dave?
It's certainly got nothing to do with the money, Tim. It's got everything to do when I have the customers laughing, hugging me, sending me emails. I can see the look on their faces. It just drives me. It just gives me enormous energy to want to do that again and again and again to inspire people. It's I live and work in an incredibly positive world. And I've kind of shaped my own world around me like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And was that the same for the spit roast business?
Yeah, it certainly was at the beginning, not towards the end.
Yeah, right.
Not towards the end.
What happened at the end there? We're going back, I know, in time, but why did the joy disappear there?
It became about the money. It became about the money. 100 spit roasts. We're doing 100 to 150 functions every weekend. And it became about the money and financial control and yeah, I just became boring.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So, Dave,
I've got to do 5 push-ups in this house if I mention the word boring, so I hope my family didn't hear that.
I'm going to send your wife a recording of this and highlight exactly at what time point you did say that. What was that? You have to do 5 push-ups in your house if you say the word.
No one in this home is allowed to mention the word boring. Right. You get down to the floor, give me 5.
Love it. I love that. So let's talk about your mindset, mate, because that is everything. You're as strong as an ox in the head. Let's talk about that in terms of you get up each day. You've got a great business, okay? There are many businesses out there that are doing it tough or haven't quite found the mojo in their business yet. What do you advise around that in terms of the mindset when you get up each day?
Okay, it's a little bit out there.
Here we go.
Put up with that, guys. Okay, it's a little bit out there.
Yep.
To give you an example, I'm going to use a real life example. How to do it? How what works for me and people around me.
Yep.
Emma. She's 6. Every morning and every evening. So when she wakes up in the morning, she cleans her teeth. And then in the right-hand corner of the mirror, there are these words. I am Emma. I am strong. I am brave. I live in an amazing world, and I love my dad. So, in other words, and Alison together, we both wake up and remind ourselves how grateful we are to live in this city, in this country. We wake up and we remind ourselves there are opportunities. We're getting there. Look, what great things are going to happen today? What's going to happen? What's something amazing going to happen today? So we expecting positive around us, and not trying to, but making sure that we get rid of negative things around us.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually go into each day very popular. We get up early. We have our bloody vegetable juices every morning, and we almost all the time, not all the time, I don't think that would be honest, but almost all the time, we're in a very positive mindset, ready to get on with it.
Well, you had the tall ship that I spent the weekend on, the bosun. Sounds like such an 18th century job title, but the bosun was Charlotte, and Charlotte's last day is today. She's heading back to Amsterdam now. From what I gathered, she is as good as bosun as you could get. And I said to you before this call started, you must be, not disappointed. You're going to find her hard to replace. And your words were you had no fear at all in replacing someone as good as Charlotte, because it just opens up a space for the next Charlotte to step into.
Well, I'm going to it's a tiny little example, but 1,000 times a day that would happen. You automatically went into the line, or you're going to find it hard to replace her. You are setting yourself up to be hard to replace her, Tim. And I'm setting myself up to have the next biggest, brighter, more beautiful person around me.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Yep.
Almost all the time. And I'm not going to say all the time, but almost all the time. And so, we've got a new engine. New engine or something happens, righto? We look for the opportunity. We actively and talk about, I wonder what on earth is going to come out, what great's going to come out of this crisis. We're actively excited because we don't know what the opportunity is going to be when we realise that we're in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah, okay. So you look for the excitement. In walks a problem, you go, thank you, I'm excited to see what the solution's going to be.
I wonder what it is. I might not be at me, and I don't necessarily need to see all the green lights. I don't at all. Quite often they're all bloody red, right?
Yep.
But I just have. It's not a pretend thing. Alice and I together, and Mark, my right hand man. Did you meet Mark? I don't think you did.
No.
So my key people, who I've all sent to Tony Robbins, by the way. We sit down around the table and think, right, how do we turn this into what we want it to be, or what's the opportunity? And so it just leads to an easy day.
What a great discussion.
It leads into new ideas. It leads into a fun environment, you know? Yeah. And gives me time to look after people like yourself and have fun with you. I had Shirley MacLaine on a couple of weeks ago, and yesterday, what's it? The great singer,
Kamal
was on the boat with me as my personal friend. And what happened? What does he do? He says, David, in his voice, do you mind if I sing a couple of songs to your love? No. And so I'm over delivering, but I didn't even mean to.
Yeah. David, brilliant story, mate. I can't imagine you being the type of guy to write a book because you won't have the time, but one of these days I'd love it if you did.
I like playing the game. When I'm 80 or 90 or something years old, I might write a book, but the game's still in play. We haven't even reached half time yet.
Wow. Hey, I reckon a bloke like you would have a favourite quote. What's your favourite quote?
There's always a way.
There's always a way. Is that from anyone in particular, or is that yours?
I don't know. I've got. So if you look at my back wall within my office, you'll see 50 quotes that I might draw upon at any different moment of a day to inspire me to think a bit better.
Brilliant, mate. David, thanks so much for what was a really honest interview and for sharing with my listeners. Well, team, I hope you got out of that as much as I did, because I'm always blown away by what my guests share. So humbling. A very moving interview, I found. And thank you, David, for that. Now, 3 tips, 3 insights that I got. I got plenty more, but I just thought I'd share 3. Number 1, success is a mindset. I love that quote. There's always a way. Sometimes I think we've got to remind ourselves about that. In fact, the idea of putting quotes up on your wall, in your office, in your car, wherever, I think that's a great idea, because not one quote's going to serve all purposes, but if you do have a number that you can refer to, then you may just move mountains. Number 2, I love his formula for creating customer experiences. Provide the unexpected with a dash of the remarkable. I love that. I added that little word dash. I thought it would soup it up, but provide the unexpected with a bit of remarkable thrown in as well. Really love that. Number 3, the power of systems. I was just reminded just of how powerful systems are. Then you can do 1 or you can do 1,000,000. And, clearly David's done that. That's how he built his spit roast business, and that's how he's building his tall ship business. What a natural progression, spit roasts to tall ships. I wonder what's next for him. We will certainly be watching with eyes wide open. That was David Warne from Sydney Tall Ships. Go and check him out, sydneytallships.com.au. In fact, go and hop on one. Great experience. Well, I thought I'd finish the show with some listener feedback. One, I think they actually both from the UK, but one sounds like it's come from Russia. But the UK bit comes by the fact that he's got a UK email address. So I'm going to go with that. Anyway, have a listen to these. I think it's wonderful to hear what other small business owners do with this show. He says, "Hi, Timbo. This is actually from Chris Lord, by the way. Hi, Timbo. I've been a big fan of the podcast since the good old days with Lukey. Hope he's doing great." Yes, he is, Chris. He is nailing it. He says, "No plugs, questions or requests with this one. I just felt I needed to get in touch to let you know how much I enjoyed the last 2 podcasts with Brad and Jamian." Yeah, they were good, weren't they? Lots of gold in there. They were inspirational, especially for a small business owner like myself. It really seems like you've stepped it up a notch recently, and that is great to see. Thanks a lot, Chris. That's nice. Especially love Jamian's story about running 24-hour support to 5,000 customers out of his bedroom, and Brad's tale about not taking no for an answer. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, well, that seems to be a constant theme. Even Dave in that interview today. These successful business owners, they don't take no for an answer. There is always a way. Chris goes on to say, "I listen to your podcast while out on my van, and it never fails to be enjoyable. Keep up the great work." Chris Lord, and he's got a lawn care business. He's a lawn care business owner from Manchester in the UK. Love that one. Now, here's the other one. I, for some reason, thought it was from Russia, but what would I know? It's from Alexander Lorenzo. Alexander Lorenzo. And he's got a business called Lorenzo Puzzle. He says, "Dear Timbo," now it's written in broken English, and I am going to go with the broken English because I kind of like that. I think it's endearing. He says, "Dear Timbo, my name is Alexander, and I am co-founder of Lorenzo Puzzle. I have been thinking of write to you long time ago, and now I think it good pretext. I want you to know that I love your podcast. Each episode is like a volcano of marketing goodies, tips and solutions." I like that, volcano, yeah. "I've started listening to your podcast a few months ago and run through all episodes in 2 weeks." Mate, that's outrageous. That's 150 plus episodes in 2 weeks. Thanks, Alexander. Just like that lady from one of your episodes, Valerie Koo, I think he's referring to. She listened all your podcasts in one go, driving along with her car. "After I catch up with all episodes, I'm probably going to kill you," he says. My brain was like marketing. My brain was like marketing. My brain was like a marketing bomb. "And now, seriously, you have such a big impact on our marketing. We took on board lots of you and your guests' suggestions, for what I wish to say thank you, thank you, thank you." Just want to say thanks, Timbo, and keep it up. Best regards, Alexander. Alexander from Lorenzo Puzzle. Hey, thanks, mate. Really appreciate that feedback. And to everyone who's left listener reviews on iTunes that I can't respond to because iTunes doesn't allow it. All right, team, I reckon that will just about wrap it up. Remember, this show is made possible by the very good folk at netregistry.com.au, so I really encourage you to get over there and see how they can help grow your business online. And, I just think that's been a pretty chock-full episode, so I've got nothing left. Have a great week. May your marketing be the best marketing, and hopefully I will see you in the Small Business Big Marketing Forum real soon. See ya.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.